The Calgary Flames, a team that entered the 2024-25 season with a cloud of uncertainty hanging over the organization. After a disappointing previous year and the departures of several key players, expectations were understandably low. Many predicted a rebuild and a slow climb back to relevancy. But the Flames, they've defied those expectations early on, surprising everyone with a scorching hot start to the season. The team is currently sitting top 3 in their division with a record of 12-8-4, boosting an impressive win percentage and a surprisingly successful offense. It's a remarkable turn of events given the perceived weaknesses of this roster on paper, but what's driving this unexpected success? And how did this perceived lottery draft team surpass some of the league's best perceived contenders? Well, today, let's talk about the Calgary Flames, the team's hot start, and whether or not this team should be all in on this current roster or look to move off of their pieces before the year is up. The Calgary Flames had one of the more active trade deadlines last year and off seasons, moving on from a lot of their key players, including Elias Lindholm, Jacob Markstrom, Noah Hanifin, Chris Tanev, Andrew Mangiapane, as well as others who had been with the organization for quite some time. The Flames were en route to what was supposed to be their inevitable rebuild, a rebuild that fans have been asking for since the departure of some of their franchise players like Matthew Tkachuk and Johnny Gaudreau. Well, now the Flames find themselves competing with some of the best not only in the Pacific Division, but in the NHL. So let's talk about how this team has found success, whether or not it's sustainable, and if this is the direction that the Flames want to see their organization heading into based on the amount of talent that they have overall with this roster. So let's begin by talking about the 2 highest paid players and really the only 2 star players that remained on this Calgary roster, and that's Jonathan Huberdeau and Nazem Kadri. The Huberdeau-Kadri experiment hasn't exactly gone as planned in Calgary, and one of the biggest questions heading into this season was how they would both adapt to all of the new changes. Both players have had some rocky seasons with the Flames. However, this year, things are looking a little bit brighter than they have in the past. Huberdeau's playmaking has returned to a somewhat respectable place, and his offensive contributions have been a factor in the Flames' success. Kadri, a skilled two-way center, has brought back his physical presence and a knack for generating offense, solidifying himself as a key piece to this team alongside Huberdeau. Now, both players have been better this year, but still need to improve their overall games based on the amount of money that they're making. At the time of this recording, they are under a point per game pace, which is still low considering the amount of money that they're making per season, something that hopefully will change as the organization continues to push forward. I assume that 1 or 2 of these players could be traded eventually, but with their contracts being so high, their production being so low, and the ages of these 2 players, it seems like they're going to be sticking with Calgary for quite some time, so hopefully their offense can continue to progress and not stay in that sort of middle land that they were in when they first arrived with the organization. While the team might not have star players who produce on a night in, night out basis, they have a pretty well-rounded roster getting scoring throughout, with 2 players who I've noticed that have stepped up big time being Rasmus Andersson and Mackenzie Weegar, who are not only responsible defensively but have allowed this offense to open up with their production and contributions. Let me not also forget Connor Zary, who was a big time player for the team last year and continues to develop into a solid young forward for the organization. So let's continue talking about the impacts of some of their star players and some of the other areas of this team that have thrived under this sort of revamped roster. Now, we talked about the offense, star players kind of contributing with Huberdeau and Kadri getting a little bit back to form. But it's not just the offense that's fueling this hot start for the team. The Flames' defense has been a pleasant surprise. They've tightened up considerably compared to last season, displaying improved communication and a much more disciplined approach. Now, I talked about Andersson and Weegar offensively a little bit, but defensively they have been pillars for this team, supporting the back end and allowing the offense and defense to work through their growing pains. They've also limited high danger chances and have been excellent at clearing the zone, which has given their goaltenders a fighting chance nearly every game. Speaking of goaltenders, Dustin Wolf has been a revelation between the pipes for the Flames this year. Now, a lot of people had their concerns when the organization decided to move on from Jacob Markstrom, but this young netminder has taken the reins and delivered stellar performances consistently. His athleticism, quick reflexes, and composure has been instrumental in securing victories for the team. Right now, I consider him to be the backbone of this Flames organization. He's earning himself not only consideration for the Calder Trophy, but potentially the Vezina Trophy if he stays on this path and continues to put up these solid numbers. Now, to most people's surprise, the Flames have been pretty well-rounded this year, but their special teams is one thing that I personally thought was going to suffer with all of the absences that they had to this team. But remarkably, that has been a little bit improved as well, specifically their power play, which is clicking at a much higher rate this year. Their power play is much improved compared to last year, and despite not having stars up front, they have managed to somehow improve their overall special teams. They seamlessly transition between puck movement and generating high-quality scoring opportunities, which has led them to being 13th in the league with a power play success rate of 20.6%. Now, this isn't exactly anything to write home about, but compared to last year, and with the overall lack of talent that this team has, I believe they've successfully capitalized on the man advantage, which has translated them into getting valuable goals at the right time and swinging the momentum in their favor during a lot of these games. Now, the one thing I will say about their special teams is that their penalty kill needs some work. They're currently sitting at 27th in the league and just can't really seem to kill off any man advantage given to the other team, which kind of goes against what I was saying when it comes to momentum. Their power play has been pretty solid to start the year, but their penalty kill seems to be negating that. Now, it hasn't impacted the team all that much this year because their 5v5 play has been pretty strong, but if the Flames start to lapse in that category, then their penalty kill will start to hurt them, so hopefully we can see them clean that up a little bit as the season progresses. So with the Flames exceeding expectations and enjoying this magical start, what's next? The trade deadline is looming pretty soon, and General Manager Craig Conroy will have some tough decisions to make. Do they continue to build on their momentum and buy at the deadline if they're in this position, acquiring key pieces to solidify their roster for a playoff run? Or given their surprise success, do they assess their future and potentially sell some of these assets to maximize their future? The Flames have a few valuable assets, including Nazem Kadri and Rasmus Andersson. They could go out and trade one of these pieces and get themselves some future assets, or they could continue to strengthen this team, adding a top 6 forward or potentially a defensive defenseman to help strengthen their roster. Either way, while people might not be fully believing in this team, it is cool to see that the Flames have put themselves in a position where they get to choose which route they want to head down. The question is, do they want to continue with this current roster and do they believe in this makeup? Or do they think that this is just a good thing for them to be able to sell off some of the assets that they believed were once distressed? It's a tough situation, but Craig Conroy is going to have to eventually decide based on this unexpected hot start. So to summarize for you all, the Calgary Flames' hot start to the season can be attributed to their overall improved team play, the unlikely resurgence of key players, new systems and changes that were made at the trade deadline last year and in the offseason, and the emergence of their young star goaltender Dustin Wolf. The path ahead is filled with possibilities, something that didn't really seem likely for the Flames based on their roster construction, their contracts, and just the direction they seem to be forced into heading. With the trade deadline presenting a crucial juncture this year, the question is going to be whether or not they decide to pursue a postseason run or solidify their future through strategic trades. One thing is for certain though, this team has proven that they are not completely ready to quit, making not only their division more interesting, but the overall picture for the playoffs this year much more competitive. But as always, I want to know what you guys think. Do you think that this hot start to the season will be sustainable for the Calgary Flames? And do you think that this is a good or a bad thing for this organization, making it a little bit more complicated for them to fully enter a rebuild or to go and buy at the trade deadline? There's a lot of questions that need to be answered for this organization, and let's just start with your opinion. So if you guys want to let me know what you think, drop a thought in the comment below about this topic and just anything else about the Calgary Flames. And before I sign off, about 90% of the people who are watching these videos have not subscribed to the channel. I'm trying to reach about 20,000 subscribers by the end of the year, and we're on a great pace right now. So if you guys want to continue supporting me and the content that I produce, make sure you hit that like button now and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. As always, thank you guys so much for watching the videos. I will see you guys in the next episode.